One-step equations with multiplication and division. This is a digital lesson, and the lesson starts with explaining what an algebraic equation is and that the unknown value is called a variable. And then to solve for the variable, we need to rearrange the terms in the equation so that the variable is alone on one side of the equal sign. And we do this by adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. This lesson is multiplication and division, so that's what we're going to be using in this lesson. And then it explains that an equation is just like a balance scale. Whatever you do to one side of the equation, you must do to the other side to keep it balanced. Now, when we get to slide 6, students are going to be dragging and dropping these terms into the correct place in the sentence frame. So the unknown value in an algebraic equation is called a variable. So they just click and hold on the edge here, and they're going to move that into place. And they're going to do that with the other three terms. When they get to slide 7, they want to drag and drop the opposite operation, because when we want to isolate a variable, we use the opposite operation. So here, 8x, that's multiplication, so the opposite would be to divide by 8. Here, we're dividing by 8, so the opposite would be to multiply by 8. So they're just going to drag and drop each of these boxes next to the correct equation. And then it shows here to isolate the x, we're dividing both sides by 3. I always have my students, when they're doing this on paper, to draw a line through the equal sign, and that way they can easily see the two sides. So here the opposite operation would be to divide by 3. And then this is how they check their answer. Now students are going to say, oh, that's easy, I don't need to check that answer. But they need to get in the habit of doing this, because when the problems get longer and more complicated, they need to know how to check their answer. So they're going to put their solution in place of the variable in the original equation and see if it works. The next few slides are going to be some practice. Here we've got some multiplication problems. Students are going to do the opposite operation. First one is done for them, so this one, they're just going to type in 5 on both sides. They're dividing by 5, and then here they're going to get y equals 5. They're going to do the same with the next few problems and on the next slide also. When they get to slide 12, they're going to solve, and then they're going to place their solution in place of the variable in the original equation and prove that their answer is correct. Then they're going to move on to division problems. Here the opposite operation would be to multiply. And you want to point out to the students they're multiplying by the numerator, not the denominator. So if they multiply by 4, it's 4 times x. And they've got a few problems to practice. The first one's done for them. And slide 17, they're going to find their solution and then check it with the original equation. Slide 18, they're going to use the line tool. They're going to connect an equation to its solution. To do that, they're going to come up here to the line, so select a line, and they're just going to click on line. They're going to get a plus sign, so they want to click on their slide wherever they want that line to start. They can play around with this. They can change the color of the line. They could change the thickness of the line. So they can do this any way they like. And then here we have our solution, x equals 7. So they just click and hold on these little blue circles on the end, and they can stretch them to move them into place. And then we've got word problems here at the end. The first 2 word problems they're given a multiple choice. So they have to decide which of these equations matches their word problem, and then type in the answer here. Same thing on the next slide. And then after they've gotten a little bit of practice there, now they're going to come up with their own algebraic equation to match this word problem. And they get a little nice work at the end. So this is one-step equations using multiplication and division.